An already beleaguered Justin Trudeau is facing yet another political uncertainty. He has been left in a precarious place as his ally Jagmeet Singh's New Democratic Party, the NDP, has withdrawn support for his minority Liberal government ahead of the general elections next year. Now, despite Justin Trudeau's unabashed support for Khalistanis, the NDP leader made the announcement in a video message of social media, insinuating that the Liberals have let down the people by caving into cooperative greed and that they don't deserve another chance from the Canadians. Though it is unlikely that the Trudeau government will fall, the Prime Minister would have to seek support from other opposition lawmakers in the House of Commons chamber. Now, taking a look at the numbers game, the Liberal bloc controls 154 seats, 15 short of the majority mark in Canada's 338-member parliament. Meanwhile, the NDP holds a relatively small but significant 24 seats. It is important to understand who Jagmeet Singh is and what his intentions are. He is the one who initiated the tribute for Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in the Canadian Parliament in June this year. He is also the one who drew a parallel between the 1984 Sikh genocide and the death of Nijjar. The question arises is, what is the reason for Jagmeet Singh to withdraw support from the Trudeau government, and what lies ahead for Justin Trudeau if the elections were to be called later this year? Let's start our conversation. Joining me on the telecast is Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee. And while there had been ripples that had been initiated by the NDP in the past several months, threatening to withdraw support from Justin Trudeau's Liberal government, it looks like it is soon going to be a reality. Now, if the government falls, is there going to be any support that Trudeau can hope for from other smaller parties besides the NDP?
Well, Megha, thank you for having me on your show. It would appear that this time Justin Trudeau is in serious trouble. The reason which has ostensibly been given by Jagmeet Singh about cracking down on trade unions and stuff like that actually hides the reality, which is that under pressure from the Canadian people and the right wing who are bringing pressure on Trudeau, he has started decreasing drastically the number of immigrants, which would also affect immigrants from Punjab. This is also because of the parlous state of the Canadian economy, the shortage of housing, medical facilities, etc. Be it what it may, this then cuts at the roots of Jagmeet Singh's political support, since he considers himself to be some kind of leader, so-called leader of the Sikh community, which actually is not correct, because he only has marginalized support, not the entire support. You were asking as to what would be the prospect when he formally withdraws and there is a no action motion, I'm told, or the budget is presented and he would need votes to pass to stop his government from falling. It would be difficult for him to find the necessary support. And persistently over the past 1 year, Megha, whenever we have discussed this, you would recall that Labour is trailing by a very large margin the Conservatives in Canada, and therefore what would probably happen is that the government would fall and there would be a Conservative government in Canada. Conservatives have traditionally been much more sensitive to India's national security concerns. They've been much more tough on terrorism, etc., which hopefully could mean that the Indo-Canadian relationship, which had really gone 80 degrees down into the ocean under this man Justin Trudeau, could see a revival, could see the bilateral relations swinging back under a friendly Conservative government, as has always been the case, Megha, when Conservatives have been in power in Canada. Megha.
Surinder Singh Lali, talking about the Conservatives and Pierre Poilievre right now holding fort for the Conservatives, the likelihood of his party coming to power, if you take a look at the numbers, 119, it is just a few numbers short of forming the majority. Early elections, if they were called, where is he likely to get support from? And as Ambassador Mukherjee said, is this going to bode well for the diplomatic ties between India and Canada?
Thank you, Megha. And before I answer a question, first allow me to congratulate NewsX for predicting the writing on the wall, because as we've been all debating, and I don't think all of this comes to me of any surprise the way things are panning out, and I think Justin Trudeau very well deserves it. Also, Megha, a big congratulations to you for allowing the likes of me, Turban Sikhs, who do not agree with the agenda of this fringe rogue that Canada allows under the bogey of free speech. That's one. And two, for only this moment, I have to agree with Jagmeet Singh. When he says, quote opens, that the Liberals have caved into corporate greed, yes. They have let the Canadian people down, yes. Liberals are weak, yes. Liberals they are beholden to corporate interests, yes. And they cannot restore hope, quote close. So I have to agree, and it was Megha already an alliance of it's an unholy marriage, because Justin Trudeau was, Jagmeet Singh was purely using Justin Trudeau to ferry his political agenda and his political base, and unfortunately for which he also used the K narrative, which really took a toll on Indo-Canadian relationships, and unfortunately the diaspora suffered. So I think now Jagmeet Singh very well knew already is and understood that this is a sinking ship, and he simply wants to distance away from Trudeau's unpopularity. Yes, as Ambassador Mukherjee said, that 68% of the Canadians in the recent election did not want Justin Trudeau and his party back. And as far as the Conservatives are concerned, I see every probability of them coming back into power. Unfortunately, the only thing which I wasn't too pleased was when the last time I was at the embassy during the Baisakhi celebrations, when they were, chanting slogans against India and the dismemberment. Pierre Trudeau was there, Pierre Poilievre was there, and he did not issue a statement after that or react, because the scale lobby is too strong, and the funding they get from these key elements is too much in those economies for anybody or any political party to go against, their nefarious activities and agendas.
Okay.
So I think that Justin Trudeau is almost out the door. And let's see, because, if there was any referendum in the last St. Paul's Toronto seat, the Liberals lost after 30 years. So the writing is on the wall. And yes, as Ambassador Mukherjee said, that I don't think the relationship between India and Canada can go any more south to what Justin Trudeau did. So any improvement now will have to be up north. Thank you.
Okay. Jyoti, let's also try to understand what would have been in the mind of the NDP and Jagmeet Singh when he decided to pull the plug from the Liberal government in coalition with Justin Trudeau's party. What is he going to gain out of it? Because the likelihood of Pierre Poilievre deciding to join hands with Jagmeet Singh to get to the number that he desires to cross the majority mark, is it even a thinkable, is it even a thought that one can consider?
Well, I think definitely Jagmeet Singh is considering it, and that is why he basically backstabbed Trudeau. And the thing is that self-preservation, if you're asking about the motivation that made Jagmeet Singh do what he did, that's self-preservation and nothing else. In fact, it would be very nice, if you ask me, if he gets thrown out of the leadership of this particular party. That is what will really give him, that is what justice will be. Because the path he has taken, the path down which he has taken this party is actually perilous, and it has gone extreme left to the extent that, from a Canadian mainstream party, it has become a party of Khalistanis, where all that he has been doing is he has been highlighting the Khalistani cause. And one of the reasons why Trudeau put the India-Canada relations on the altar of, he wanted, because he was doing all this because he wanted Jagmeet Singh's support. So that is the reason he thought he will play politics. He allowed internal domestic politics to affect international relations with as important a partner as India, and even then he could not save his, right now he is in a precarious position until the time the election happens, sometimes in 2025, unless of course the government falls in the meanwhile sometime in the next whatever. But the thing is that Pierre Poilievre, I agree, it is very disappointing that he has not come across as strongly as India should have expected against the Khalistanis, because you see, they are actually a vote bank. Whether NDP wants to join hands or not, or whether he is going to take support or not, we do not know that. But yes, Jagmeet Singh is also not the only party that will be willing to support the Conservatives in this case. But at the same time, can we rule out the possibility? No, not right now. But yes, as I said again, let's hope Jagmeet Singh is the person who gets thrown out of his party presidency.
Okay. Let's understand also. I don't know if that really is going to be a possibility, but again, here the fate of the NDP, what exactly is Jagmeet Singh thinking? Because obviously he has the political acumen. He's not going to decide to stay out of power by removing himself from the very comfortable position. Don't know how long it was going to last, but as of now, it is the coalition government between the Liberals and Jagmeet Singh's party NDP that has formed the government, still continues to be at the helm of affairs. Gautam Mukherjee, talking about the other side, and once again, discussing about the math over here. When we take a look at the Conservatives, 119 seats that they have right now, then there is, besides the NDP, Jagmeet Singh's party, we also have Bloc Québécois. And again, their narrative has been of a free Quebec. And here lies the irony, wherein Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, National Democratic Party, advocating for the rights of the Khalistanis and a Khalistan built in India, a division from India, secessionist movement. And there you have a party in Canada that has also been advocating about the rights of the people of Quebec, who themselves see in alienation from the rest of Canada. How does this politics of numbers then come together, or is there a likelihood that people are now so despondent and unhappy with the Trudeau government that they are going to come out in large numbers and support the Conservatives?
Well, Megha, the basic problem for which Trudeau was forced to act is an economic malaise which has gotten quite bad. And as a consequence, many of the policies that he was earlier following, he just couldn't sustain. This has put Jasmeet in a bad position, and he has pulled the plug mainly, I think, to maintain his political credibility personally and for the few people who support him. It is not really such a clever thing to do in terms of the political future of his party, because it's not at all certain where else he can go to retain the kind of clout that he has enjoyed. But the fact is, whether it is Trudeau limping on with outside support from someone else to replace the Khalistanis, or it is, his government collapses and the Conservatives come in, they have to address economic issues which have slowly and steadily gone bad. This business of Quebec is not new. It's been around since the dawn of Canada, more or less. It crops up more and more whenever there is an economic problem, and it recedes when enough things are done in that province to assuage their needs for the time being. It is not viable for Quebec to separate any more than it is for Canada to pursue the kind of policies it has been and sustain itself. It is, losing trade. It's fought with India. It's fought with China. It is a lackey of the United States, and that is a geographical fact of life. But what are they able to do to pull themselves out of a morass which is growing? There's a lot of unemployment. There is a lot of wage freeze. Life is difficult. It is not easy to be a Canadian right now, let alone, let in more immigrants or the recent immigrants. So altogether, like much of Europe, and for that matter, the United States, today we'll get job, details, but the anticipation is that it's gone a bit worse than was earlier thought. And this is going to roil the stock markets around the world. It's already had an impact in India. So things are not all that rosy.
Okay.
And things have to be worked out in a much more different manner from what has been going on so far.
Okay, all right. Ambassador Mukherjee, then what are the kind of challenges that the Conservatives and their leader Pierre Poilievre will have to face in fighting the Khalistani menace, if at all they were to come to power?
The Conservatives have a completely different perspective. They are fully aware that it's a very small, minuscule minority I actually think calling them Khalistanis is giving them too much of dignity, but small, minuscule minority who would like to see a separate state carved out from independent India, from the state of Punjab, which does not have support in India and which does not have support among the majority of the Indian diaspora, including many, many Sikhs living in Vancouver, who have been subjected to extreme pressure by some of these fundamentalist people, part of Jagmeet Singh's party. As far as the Conservatives are concerned, this is a non-issue. As far as Quebec is concerned, I agree with Gautam. Quebec is a historical issue linked with Canada's decolonization and the fight between the Americans and the Brits on one hand and the French on the other. It resulted in a situation where the Canadian federal structure was specifically built in a way that French is part of the curriculum and the language, approved language of Canada, that is French and English. And if you want to join the French civil service or foreign service, you have to pass a qualifying exam in French. But despite all those efforts, the Quebecois remain very, very French. I've been to Quebec many times and find it very Parisian. And they are not integrated into mainstream Canada. That does not mean that they have a serious movement for independence, but they use it to pressure, as Gautam said, to pressure the central government for subsidies, etc., which the center always hands over.
Okay.
In this particular case, because of Trudeau's foolish policy of encouraging unlimited immigration from Punjab, so as to pressure India further, which resulted in downsizing of the Canadian mission here, and it also resulted in putting huge pressure on housing facilities, medical, etc. He is now in a situation where the Canadian economy is in a downturn, so he's had to crack down on immigration, which has resulted in his best friend withdrawing support, and that is going to continue. And I am quite confident that the Conservatives will come back to power with a thumping majority when the elections are held. And that will be so good for Indo-Canadian relations.
Okay. Surinder Singh Lali, again weeding out the Khalistani terrorism that has, gotten himself deeply entrenched in Canada. How difficult would it be a task for the Conservatives if they were to come to power? And are we now hoping for immediate results if the elections take place and say, I don't know, will it magically all disappear? Or there will have to be cooperation that will have to be seen from India and Canada. And of course, the red corner notices, the National Investigating Agency is putting out charge sheets and requests of extradition that have been made by India several times to the Canadian government under the Conservatives and Poilievre. Will these become easy issues to tackle for India?
Thank you, Megha. For the heck of an argument, I don't want to dignify them with the K word and beyond that. So let's call them activist extremists. That's the best attention I'm willing to give them for the heck of an argument. But Megha, I don't think the plug has been pulled yet, because according to Jagmeet Singh, he seems to have ripped up a supply confidence agreement. I mean, nobody's seen this document. And this wasn't like a common minimum program. It was a handshake that they both probably had for support. So I think there could be, the jury's still out on this one, and we'll find out on the 16th of September. It's when the next session happens. So I think this could very well be shadowboxing done by Jagmeet Singh in order to, suck whatever he can out of the way Canada is going south and build his party as probably an option C in the next election. Because please remember, I mean, what could be a dream for any fringe partner who's supporting in any major political party across the world is, end of the day, use them to come themselves into power. Your second thing is that, yes, the K lobby is a much larger game plan, which the southern neighbor of Canada plays out, because Canada is nothing else but a wingman to the United States. So there is much more science to it, where these large developed economies use the journeys of, the likes of the Pannus and everything only to negotiate on geopolitical issues. I mean, it's no rocket science to know how our support to Russia, our being unilateral in this war to Russia and not aligning, made a lot of these Western economies unhappy. So these are, these journeys that Western economies used in order to build a narrative in their favor. So this is a much larger game plan. And your third question is, once again, Megha, a politician, especially in Western economy, really needs a lot of funding. And in those countries, it's a much open argument. I've been to, as part of the Democratic caucus in New York, and there were $1,000 plates where you can go wine and dine with Bill and Hillary Clinton. So it won't be that easy for them to get rid of a lot of money that they get from the K lobby, because the K lobby is involved in a lot of nefarious activities, from immigration to drug to prostitution. I mean, just 3 days ago, there were shots fired at a very famous Punjabi singer's house. And so these are all, politicians in hands with criminals who actually fund their elections. So, as I said, that, the conservatives, the liberals have taken it so down that the conservatives will have a great field to try to bring it up north. But it's not that easy also, because money matters. Okay,
all right. Jyota, what's your opinion? How are the next 12 months going to be in India-Canada ties? There is quite the upheaval that we witnessed right now. Is it just a warning that is being issued, shaking things up by the NDP, giving a little nudge to the Liberals, saying that, if you don't toe our path, consequences will have to be faced?
Well, you see, here we have to differentiate between NDP and Jagmeet Singh. Don't forget that NDP is not Jagmeet Singh's party. NDP is over a 60-year-old party. This is for the first time, sometime in 2017, I think 7 years back, that this man became the president, was elected in their first ballot or whatever, the president of the party. And you see, ever since NDP has been going downhill. So, when it comes to, I think some local elections are also coming up, and except for the hold that Jagmeet Singh has in those Khalistani majority areas like British Columbia and all, NDP is going is on a downhill path. So, it is ultimately about the preservation of this particular guy himself, and he thinks that he can preserve his position among his Khalistani voters by constantly bad-mouthing India, by actually now arguing that Trudeau is pro-India. So, basically, so when you are looking at it, that is why I keep saying let us see how long this guy is able to hold on to its NDP's leadership position, because once he is ousted, and he will be, because he is already faring badly in elections, automatically there will be a different, some difference is bound to come into India-Canada relations. So, and yes, when you are looking at Trudeau's party, Trudeau is nowhere right now. So, yes, we have to wait and see what happens in the next election, but yeah, Jagmeet Singh's own political career is at stake here.
Okay, all right. Let's hear it from Gautam Mukherjee as well. Concluding remarks, the larger picture over here between the bilateral ties of Canada and India, and how are the domestic affairs of Canadian politics going to reflect upon those?
Well, I think India, Megha, has made it amply clear that Canada has to change its Khalistan supporting policies, and this is also apparent to the powers that be in Canada. So with this as a premise and a precondition, I think either Trudeau changes his ways and dumps what is now a dwindling force and decides to mend fences with India, in which case it will happen sooner rather than later, or he, there is really no reason for him to support people who have abandoned him or threatened to abandon him, because what they are asking for is not possible. If it was possible, it wouldn't have been withdrawn in the first place. So, the Conservatives, of course, are going to take a different stance with India. We have essentially had good relations with Canada going back to the 50s. Our first nuclear power plant was supplied by fuel from Canada. We've done well with them, except for when Pierre Trudeau was in power, and now his son, Justin Trudeau, same problem, same kind of obtuseness when it comes to Indian issues, same murders that are not investigated, lies, and so on. So that's the same politics, you see, and it doesn't work.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.